and cheddar subs on some of our leftover Copycat Cheesecake Factory bread that I baked up last night. And we're going to make some chocolate banana donuts with 3 different glazes. So let's start out by making the base for our soup. I'm going to chop up an onion, and then we'll get our tomatoes in. And I realize I want to grab some garlic too. So I'll grab some garlic in there, but we'll get our onion sauteing for our soup. And then tomatoes. It's such an easy tomato basil soup. Is full of so much flavor, but it is so easy to make. And it is one of my favorites on there. I feel like it's one of my, it's like that first kind of soup that you fall in love with as a kid. When I was kid, like it was I think it was Bread and Company was the place. And you could get that. I would get the tomato basil soup in a bread bowl, and it was just so good. And so it's just one of those ones that I just love. It's one of my favorites. So we're going to dice this up, and then we'll get them sauteing, and then we'll get our tomatoes diced up and have those. And then, we'll get a little garlic too. I'm going to grab my garlic out of the fridge because I forgot it. About a tablespoon or so of olive oil in our little Dutch oven to heat up. Let's get our onions in here. And I'm going to give my hands a quick rinse. Just get a little bit of that onion juice off. And then I'm going to grab my garlic out of the fridge because the garlic will make the soup taste 10 times better. Never have enough garlic. And we don't need to mince it up yet because I want the onions to caramelize and get a good, great flavor on them. So I'm going to give them a quick little toss here, coat them up, and then we'll let them start to heat. And while we're doing that, we can start working on our donut base. So I'm pretty much with this recipe, I have taken my banana donut recipe. I've subbed out some flour to add in cocoa powder. I'm going to add in some chocolate chips, and then I'm going to add in a little bit of vanilla so that it's a chocolate banana donut base. And it's going to be delicious. So we're going to start out with 4 very ripe bananas. Whew, so ripe that they're falling apart on there. So this is one of those things where, I buy bananas, and then some weeks they're gone, and then some weeks we have lots left over for it. They're just all falling apart here, but that means they're going to be good bananas. You don't want them firm. You want them falling apart, mushy. The browner, the better. Those are going to give you the sweetest and most flavorful.
You have a question. Where do you find the peeled garlic?
So the peeled garlic, you can actually get it in a lot of different places. These were actually from this brand right here is the Whole Foods one, but I got it on Amazon Fresh. So Amazon Fresh and Whole Foods. You can get, I want to say it's like, there's another one. I can't remember the brand name off the top of my head, but it's like Spice of the World or something like that. But my Publix, Target, they all have it. It's going to be refrigerated. So it is not, where you get the jarred garlic to the side of your produce. It's going to be in the refrigerated section, and it's typically next to your other fresh herbs. And so that's kind of where I get mine. And I love it because peeling garlic is not fun, but it's already peeled. Now, once you open it up, I will say you have to use it within 2 weeks on there. Otherwise, it will go bad. Now, it's never my problem because I use about 2 to 3 bags a week of garlic because it's one of my favorite herbs. We've got our bananas here, and I'm going to add in a cup of brown sugar, and we are going to then mash the bananas and the brown sugar together until we have a nice kind of banana soup. And the brown sugar is going to give this a nice, lovely, rich flavor. Rinse that off just a smidge. I'll pop these guys. And you can use a fork too, but I find the hand mixer just makes it a little bit easier for this. And again, you want to make sure your bananas are nice and ripe, because if they're underripe, they're not going to mash up as well. And we want them to turn into a nice banana soup. There we go. And I'm going to bring up my speed a little bit higher because I don't want any big chunks. I want to really mash those bananas down nice and small. Okay. Give this a quick minute to sit. We'll come back and mash it on there, but I want to give my onions a nice little stir here. I'm going to turn this down to about a 5 now that we've got it nice and hot. And then I'm going to mince up some garlic, get our garlic in here, and then we'll prep up our tomatoes to get our tomatoes in here because most of the soup is really simmering the like garlic and the onions and the tomatoes together. I'm going to use a good amount of garlic here for this. And we're going to mince it up nice. And you don't have to go super fine because we are going to be putting everything through a blender so that it makes it nice and smooth, like a nice biscuit-like texture here. So just a good little thing. Now the more, because when you blend it, it'll bring out the flavor. So a good kind of coarse chop on it is all you need to do. I'm just trying to get some of those really big pieces. There we go. So I'm going to toss in my garlic and give this a quick little stir. We'll mix it around. And then we're going to let that garlic cook up for about 30 seconds to a minute. We don't want it to get too crispy or whatnot. So we'll kind of start mixing and stirring it there. And then I've got some lovely tomatoes here that I need to use up for it. I'm going to take off on there. I said some of these have little Jack bites out of them because Jack loves to steal my produce and then and throw it and put it in the dog bowl. So I'm always like, oh, I need to put it a little bit higher, but I'm sure he'd find a way. Sometimes he actually will grab a chair if I put things higher to grab it out of there. So cutting off the little Jack bites everywhere, but makes good soup. A good thing we're all family. Here. And woo. Get the rest of these out. Okay. So we've got our tomatoes here, a good amount of vine ripe tomatoes. You could also, if you wanted to, use some canned tomatoes, but I prefer these. This tomato is actually so ripe that the seeds inside it are starting to sprout. That's pretty cool. Maybe I'll keep these for my garden. Look at this. I've got been sitting on my counter for a while, but they are actually little sprouts in there. How cool is that? Now I'm going to see if I can grow these into a tomato plant. We're going to try my gardening skills. I'm going to put those to the side. Tomatoes still good though. So with these, you don't need to do much chopping up on them because we are going to puree them. So I'm just going to kind of quarter them and then we'll toss them in there. If I have some of my bigger ones, I might cut up just a little bit more. And then we'll let them saute and kind of bring out those flavors. And get these in here. And then we're going to just let them stew and simmer for a little while together, bring that flavor and really make that wonderful. And then I'll add in some fresh basil. I'll add a little bit of tomato paste and then some, about 1 to 2 cups of broth. And we'll let that simmer, but I want the tomatoes to cook up for a little bit first. Reduce it down. Now, the one thing is when you're making tomato basil soup with fresh tomatoes, you don't want to add a whole lot of extra liquid. Otherwise, your soup will be very, very runny. So we've got that going. Give my hands a quick rinse. And then let's finish up our donuts here. I'm going to mix, I'm going to turn this on, give it another good whisk. good. And now we're gonna add in 5 tablespoons of melted butter with it. And you don't need to add a lot of butter into this compared to like my muffins and whatnot because the bananas are gonna get you there. And then I'm gonna add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Actually, before I do the vanilla, I'm gonna do my baking powder, baking soda so that my teaspoon thing doesn't go out. So I'm gonna do, for my recipe, I need 2 teaspoons of baking powder, but because I'm out of baking powder, I'm gonna sub in a little bit of baking soda. So baking powder is just baking soda with cream of tartar and cornstarch added to it. And that's kind of the active, gives it a whole kind of reactive unit to it. With this dish, I have brown sugar, which is a reactive unit for it. So I can add in baking soda and I don't have to worry about it not getting the puff. I had about 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, so I'm gonna add about a half a teaspoon of baking soda. It's typically around 1/4 to 1/3 teaspoon of baking soda in a teaspoon of baking powder. So I'm gonna go with a half to get me there. And that should be more than enough in this. And that baking or the molasses in the brown sugar is going to be enough of a reactor for me in this dish to give it a pop. So that's the nice thing about baking powder. You don't need to think about all of your ingredients in there, what's going to cause each one to give its reactions. Okay, now we can add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And we'll do our eggs, 2 eggs. 1, 2. And then we're going to add in a teaspoon of salt. We're going to give this a nice mix. Kind of make sure those eggs get mixed together. All of that baking powder, baking soda gets mixed in. There we go. Lovely. And then I am going to move to using a spatula because we're going to be adding in our cocoa powder and our flour. And I don't want to over mix it because this is a butter base. And over mixing it when you get to there will give you a stiffer donut. And I don't want a stiff donut. I want a nice fluffy donut. So we're going to add in a half a cup of cocoa powder and 1.5 cups of flour. So we're subbing out, which is a little bit different from my banana donut recipe, is we're subbing out a half a cup of flour with a half a cup of cocoa powder to give it that nice chocolatey flavor. Here we go. Whoop. Of course, I missed that there completely. Perfect. So we've got that. Let me clean up my mess. Big mess. I'll move these. I'm going to actually use cocoa powder for my chocolate glaze in a little bit. So I'm like covered. I didn't even realize it. Well, this one's going into the wash. This is why I have several aprons. It's hard to keep them clean. And we're going to mix this in, and then we'll add in our flour. I like to do the cocoa powder first because it actually is it's like, it acts a lot like cinnamon. If you've ever tried to mix cinnamon in, it likes to sit on top of the batter and takes a little bit more to mix in. So I'm going to mix it in, and then I'll get the flour in so I don't over mix that flour. And then we're going to add in some chocolate chips as well. You see how it just likes to kind of hide around there. Here. And once we kind of get it moving, there we go. Once you've got it, you've kind of broken that, then it gets in there. So these are going to be so good. I love how I cleaned up the counter and it's already messy again. It's the life of a baker. And there we go. Or a mom of a toddler, I should say. feel like I clean up our playroom every single day, and every single day it is trashed. But kids can't learn in a messy environment, so I always clean it up for them so it's organized for their play in the morning. And, they're less than stellar at cleaning it back up.
Judy sent you a good.
Well, thank you, Judy. We appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to add in 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to mix that until it's just barely combined. You don't want to overmix it. And there. And then we'll fold in, once we've got this mixed in, we're going to fold in some chocolate chips. Now, mini chocolate chips would be ideal, but I am all out of mini chocolate chips, so I'm going to use good old regular ones. But you can see that cocoa powder is just going to give it such a lovely, rich, chocolatey flavor to it. And then those chocolate chips will add a little extra flavor. And then, of course, we're going to do some glazes. We're going to do vanilla, chocolate, and peanut butter glazes on our donuts here. Okay, looks like we're just about perfectly mixed in. And again, it's a nice thick batter because it is a butter batter. And butter batters are better. Let's get in. I would say for this, I'm going to use about, I'm going to say around, but a third to a half a cup of chocolate chips. Mini chocolate chips, again, I'm going to say would be so much, be nicer.
Paula,
thank you, Paula. We appreciate that. And then we're just going to mix those chocolate chips into our batter. Again, just gently mix them in. We don't want to overmix. Okay, we're going to let our batter sit here for just a second or so. And just a little cocoa powder there. I want to make sure that gets mixed in. And I'm going to work on my soup, and then we'll start cooking it off, and we'll get our glazes going. So I'm going to give this a good stir here for our soup. And then I'm going to grab my tomato paste. I have a little bit of it in my fridge. We're going to use up, and then we're going to add in some liquid for this. So let me grab a spoon, and now with the tomato basil soup, or when you make a tomato soup, you don't want to add in too much extra liquid, but I'm going to add in a good helping of chicken bouillon. So that is because if you add in too much liquid, you're going to have, it's going to make it really, really soupy. So I'm going to add in a good heaping tablespoon or so of tomato paste. This is going to give you a rich tomatoey flavor. It will help thicken up the broth too on there when you add it in. So it will help just give you more of that tomato flavor. We're going to mix that around, kind of incorporate it in. I'll let that simmer. And then before I add in some water and some chicken bouillon, I'm going to add in a lot of basil. I'm going to do a coarse chop on the basil because, again, we are going to puree this soup. So all of my herbs and everything will be made smaller. I will say I do love the smell of fresh basil. Now, you don't want to add in any of the stalk, so just make sure you pull all the leaves off. And I like to use a lot of basil. I would say I'm going to use probably around a cup. Now, that would be like a cup kind of loosely packed in here. Now, if you're going to use dried basil, do not use the same, like a cup of dried basil. That would be really, really strong. If you're going to use dried basil, I would say about a tablespoon or so in there, because if you were to dry out fresh basil and then kind of chop it up like that, it would actually be a lot smaller once it loses its liquid. But we're going to use a good amount. And when you chop it up, it will probably be closer to a half a cup. And again, you don't have to do a super fine chop on it because we will be putting it through our blender, so it will break up a little bit smaller. But the more cuts on it, the more flavor it will seep into your soup. There we go. Oh, a little more. And we'll give this a nice little stir here. Kind of coat it up nicely. Bring down some of these onions that are hiding up on the sides. And then let me fill up. And I'm going to say we're probably going to add about 2 cups of water. With a big heaping spoonful of chicken bouillon. So the chicken bouillon is going to give you that saltiness flavor to your soup, give you that little bit of richness to it, but you don't want to add too much water because, again, it will make it soupy because when you puree up tomatoes, there's not a lot of like base to them.
Judy sent you a gift.
Well, thank you, Judy. We appreciate it.
And you have a question? Do you cook every day?
No, not every day. There's lots of times that we're busy or out of town, so I won't cook. Tonight, I will not be cooking dinner because our soccer schedule is just going to be too crazy to do it. I have one daughter has practice from 6:30 to 7:30, and the other one has from 7:30 to 8:30. So I was like, I really know way I'm going to be able to cook dinner in that kind of split time for it. So not every day, but I do try to cook home cooked meals most of the time for my family on there. I grew up eating home cooked meals like all the time. So it was a special treat as a kid when we would go out to eat. And it was like once a month if we were lucky, or somebody's birthday. And so, I like to kind of keep that the same thing with our family, going out to eat or picking up more of a treat instead of a regular occurrence. Okay, adding in a nice big heaping spoonful of chicken bouillon. You could also sub in vegetable bouillon for it, but I do prefer the chicken because I think it has a lighter flavor to it. And then we're going to let this come to a nice simmer. Okay. Wow. Let me wipe up my counter over here. It's very messy, and we're going to be making some glazes. Cocoa powder everywhere. It's cocoa delicious. Okay, I've got my donut maker nice and heating up. I'm gonna bring my, I've got a little kind of a cookie cooling rack, which we'll put our donuts on when we glaze them so that they can drip down afterwards. These donuts cook up really, really fast, about 3 minutes or so, kind of for them. So we're gonna get these in here. Let me grab a nice metal spoon to scoop them off in there. You do not need to spray them down. These are a hot griddle pan. So they cook up and they kind of steam it. The one thing is you don't want to overfill your donut maker. And I find that just a nice scoop like this is the perfect amount in here. If you add too much, it will puff over. And these have, they have a little donut shape on top, so they kind of cook up and they fill out perfectly when they're making. And then we'll close it up and let it cook. Let me grab this, give my finger a little clean, and now let's work on, we're gonna make a couple sets of glazes.
So you have a question? What kind of subs are you making today?
I'm going to make some ham and cheddar subs. So we have our honey whole wheat, it's our copycat cheesecake factory bread. We have that left over, and so I'm going to use that as our bread. And I was like, you know what, ham would go really good with the honey wheat. So ham and cheddar with tomatoes and lettuce on there. So just simple but delicious. I don't know why I've got that sugar out. I need this sugar. Okay, let's start off. We're going to start off with the most simple glaze, vanilla. And I'm going to do them in these bowls because you want a bowl big enough to dip the top of each donut in.
Yo has a question for you.
What's for dinner tonight? Unfortunately, no dinner stream tonight. Our soccer schedule is just not going to allow it. We're just going to be jumping around to too many fields. So no dinner. The kids will be happy because we're having sushi. My favorite on there. But yeah, life happens. But we will, we're going to be working on our cookbook and making sure we get all of that stuff done. And I'm going to be working on some recipe cards to be posting for tomorrow for our members on there. Okay, for our first glaze I'm going to make is my vanilla glaze. I'm going to do about 2 tablespoons of heavy cream in here. And splash more. And then we're going to do about a teaspoon or so of vanilla, which I find is around 2 cupfuls. And then before we whisk that up, let me grab some butter over here because I want to start getting that melted for our chocolate and our peanut butter glazes. So, and they both need melted butter in them. Let me get a knife here. I'm going to put in about 3 tablespoons in here and about 1 tablespoon in here for the peanut butter one. We'll start. The chocolate's going to use 3 tablespoons of butter, and my peanut butter one, when we get to it, we'll use 1, but I'm going to just make 1 at a time on my burner. We're going to let that one melt. So while we wait, we've got our vanilla with our cream, and we're going to add in our powdered sugar.
I just find it funny what you call 1 tablespoon.
There's a little, look, that one, it's like, plus
8 of those is
8 of those equal a stick of butter. They're give or take, guys, give or take. Or probably like a tablespoon and a teaspoon, like a smidge more. There's about 3 tablespoons left over, so I used about 1 extra tablespoon.
Everyone knows you're
Jeez.
heavy-handed.
Nice. No donuts for you. Okay, we're going to keep mixing this. And then you're just going to add, it's going to be about a cup of powdered sugar, but enough powdered sugar to get a nice thick consistency of Elmer's glue. So a good kind of drizzle on here. So this is kind of my vanilla, but I'm going to actually take a peek at my donuts real quick, see if they're ready, because they're getting kind of close to that time. I'll give them a nice little top. You know what? They're just about. I'll close it. I'm going to get a fork, and then I'll take them out in about 30 seconds. I'm done with this guy, so we'll free up some room. And then before I open that up, let me give this guy a quick stir. I'm going to turn it down just a smidge. Okay, round 1 of our donuts here. We're going to pop them out, and then they'll be nice and soft. And then I just kind of always poke the belly button through, and then we'll glaze them.
You have a question. I like this idea. Would you ever be willing to do like an Iron Chef type stream where the chat chooses what you make?
I would love to. I think it would be so much fun. I would definitely be willing to do that. I love fun little game showy type stuff for it. To me, that is so much fun. Okay, before we dip those, let's get our next round of donuts in cooking, and then we can dip our first round of donuts in our vanilla glaze, and then our butter is almost ready for our chocolate glaze to be whipped up. So we'll get this in, but yes, I would have so much fun with that. I love little fun little challenges and trying to make stuff. That's actually, honestly, I feel like I'm in one of those shows whenever I have to go over and cook at my mom's house because, I cook all of her food and I do all of their kind of main grocery shopping. But there's occasionally when I'm over there and my kids are like, oh, we're hungry. Can you make something? And I'm like, I don't know if there's any food in this house that we can eat that's not like my leftovers on there. So it will be me going through and I'm like, what can I make with these? I mean, they always have like flour and sugar and eggs and stuff like that, but nothing else. Okay, we'll get this butter just about there for it. Okay, for our donuts, what you're gonna do is I'm gonna see if I can hold this up and there we go. We'll do it bigger like that. You're going to take them and then you're going to dip them into your glaze, the top side up, and then you let them kind of drip down. And you want to do this while it's still hot. I'm going to turn this off because it is going to dribble. And this is going to give you just a nice thin coat over the top of them. You don't want to let your donuts cool too much before you do this because you want them to ooze down over the sides and kind of coat it. So you don't need to dip both sides because they'll drip down below. My kid's favorite thing is to come, or at least Teddy's favorite thing is to come under here and lick all the glaze drippings off the pan underneath. He thinks that is just so delicious. Let me give it a little bit more dip on that side. And that will give you a nice kind of thin vanilla glaze. Now let's get our chocolate glaze going here. We've got butter, and we're going to do some cocoa powder. And do about a tablespoon or so. We're making kind of a good amount. And then we're going to whisk this together. Make a nice little smooth base here. And then we're going to add in powdered sugar and cream. I'm going to move this guy over here to start melting for our peanut butter base. And I'm actually going to move it into this bowl here because, you know, I could actually whisk it in here and that saves a dish for later. We're going to do that. See, I saved the cameraman a dish, guys. I'm so thoughtful. I'm going to add in a little bit of powdered sugar first, then I'll add in some cream. And this will be our kind of our chocolate glaze. Oops. So we'll mix that together. And actually for this, I don't want to use cream. You want to use milk because cream will make it too thick. Then we'll give this a nice little whisk until we get to it. And then we'll just add in, you need about a tablespoon or so. I'm going to turn this butter off to the side. Let's add in some more powdered sugar because with the butter and the cream, it will be too thick to give you, it will make a frosting. And we need a glaze because you need it to be thin enough to drip over your donuts. Add it in. And again, you're going to use around a cup of powdered sugar. But again, I always say, look for the consistency of kind of Elmer's glue. If it's too thin, it will run right off for it. And then we're going to make our subs in just a second, but I think I can smell the chocolatey. So I'll see if these are ready. These are perfect. So we'll get this round out. You know what? I'm going to give them one. That one needs a little bit more. 30 seconds more. Just about perfect. It's so hard to tell when they are chocolate versus when they are, the regular dough because you can see the coloring. And I was like, oh, they feel right there. I think we're going to have our chocolate glaze perfect here in just a second. This will be so good. I think my kids are going to love the chocolate one. Although I feel like the peanut butter is going to be really delicious too. We're going to melt. So you're going to melt the peanut, add some peanut butter to the butter, and we'll melt that together to make it a little bit of a taste. Mint and banana.
Maybe not.
Okay, if they were chocolate donuts, I know I was deciding on the flavors, and one of them, he goes, how about an almond? I was like, almond and banana, maybe. And then mint. It reminds me of when we got that. We went to Sonic one time, and they made a mistake on the our blizzard, and instead of giving us multiple different blizzards, they combined 3 blizzards in one. And it was mint, which was spearmint, not even peppermint, Butterfinger, and cookie dough. And it was they're like, well, we thought it was a really weird order. And I was like, yeah, but here we go. I always like to poke through that little hole there. That way, when you get the little glaze, it will drizzle through. I'm going to put my next batch of our donut batter in so these can start cooking up because this is going to make about 25 donuts on here. So it makes a good amount. And again, you don't need a whole lot and don't overfill it. I always say, err on the side of putting a little bit less in there than you do because if too much will cause you to pop out of your donut maker. And then you've got a bigger mess to clean up later.
You have a question. Do you ever use a toothpick to test if the donuts are done?
I just tap them. I give them a little tap. Now, if you're going to do it in the oven on a baking tray, you'll want to bake them at 350, and it takes around 12 minutes, depending if you have the big donuts or a little bit less for the smaller ones. Okay. This is just about ready. Look at that beautiful chocolate glaze here. So I'm going to get a little scoop of peanut butter in with our butter so that can work and then start melting. And then we'll dip those donuts. We're going to put about, and you want to use like unhealthy peanut butter. No healthy peanut butter for this. The good old like Jif or Skippy or peanut butter. We're gonna let that melt into that butter here. And that my burner's off, so it shouldn't be too hot. And now let's dip these guys. Let me get this whisk out of the way. I'll give it a quick rinse here in just a second because I'm going to use it for my peanut butter one. And we're going to dip. So in. And now look at those. They're just going to be so good with that chocolate glaze on there with our peanut butter, or not our peanut butter, with our banana base in here. So it's a chocolate banana base with chocolate chips. So good. So good. And again, you don't need to dip the whole thing, just one side, and it will ooze down. Okay. Let me get our soup a nice little stir here. Beautiful. I'm going to bring it down to a nice low simmer because we'll be pureeing this in just a second. But let's get our last frosting done, and that way we can focus on it. So you're going to melt the peanut butter and the butter together. So it'll make a nice, almost like a peanut butter sauce. And then we'll add our powdered sugar to it, and it will be lovely. I think the peanut butter one, I feel like it's going to be so good. But I have to say, I love peanut butter. And you're going to use, instead of cream for this one, you'll use a little bit of milk for it as well. There we go. So you see how we've got this nice runny base here. So we're going to add it to our bowl. And then I'm just going to get a different whisk because that one will be too chocolatey. We're going to add in our powdered sugar first, a little bit of it, then I'll add my milk. That way I can kind of get some of it going. And we're going to add in about a tablespoon or so of milk. And then we'll add in some more powdered sugar. Now it looks wonderful. And again, you're going to use about a cup of powdered sugar because a little bit of liquid sure does take a whole lot of powdered sugar. But once you get to the consistency of glue, that should be a perfect texture. So we're pretty good. I'm going to add just a pinch more for this. And then we can be ready to take our next ones out and work on our sandwiches here and finish up our soup.
Oh, you have a question. Have you ever made pumpkin cookies with chocolate chips?
I have. I actually have a really great chewy pumpkin chocolate chip cookie because I really like them when they're chewy and not like a cake batter. And they are one of my favorite. I actually think when I make them, my husband always says, I like these better than your original chocolate chip cookies, which I don't often get when I put pumpkin and stuff for him. Okay, let's see if these are ready because our glaze is definitely ready. I'll move this over here. That is going to be delicious. Peanut butter. And give them a little tap. Yep, nice and firm for it. And then I'm going to let them cool for 1 second. I'm actually going to try to figure out where I'm going to move these. Here, we'll do a little rotation here. Slide these guys down. Beautiful. On there. And then we're going to take them out. I'll get my next batter one in, and then we'll dip them because you don't want to dip them when they're piping hot because then that batter will run off too fast. It's perfect when they're warm, but not super hot. Get this next round cooking. And I think these are going to be a big hit with the kids. I've made chocolate donuts before, but I haven't really made chocolate banana donuts. I make chocolate banana muffins a lot, but changing it up. A little smidge more. And just a great different thing to do with bananas. I feel like if you're, like me, where one week your kids love bananas, next week you're like, why didn't you eat bananas?
Spot check. How many steps?
So today I've had a really good workout. 21,291. So really good workout today. Lots of workouts actually. So pretty proud. Although yesterday, awesome workout. I thought it was so close to 30,000. I had 27,000 steps. So really good day yesterday. Makes up for no workouts on the weekend. Here we go. We're going to dip it in our nice peanut butter glaze. And again, we'll let it ooze down off the sides. And this is just adds a little extra bit of sweetness to them. You don't want to cake it on too thick because you don't want it to be, like a frosting, but more of a glaze over it. So it's not so rich, but still get that wonderful, beautiful donut. There we
I do have a
go.
question. What do you do to get 20 steps?
Well, this morning I did actually lots of different workouts today. So I wake up every morning at around 6 a.m. And while I wake up, get my old daughter ready for school. Then I did a little elliptical and some weightlifting. And I have like a power gym or a whole gym. I can't remember what it's called. And then I came in, did everybody else ready, and then my husband and I did some Taibo. We did a 90-minute Taibo today, and after that, I kind of ran out, pick up my older daughter from school today because they got out early, and then I did another kind of a 30-minute workout after that, like another Taibo Celebrity Fit on there for it. So had a couple good. I got about 2 hours of workouts in which is what I like to do because I was a swimmer. And so I like to me, I always swam. Well, back when I swam in high school, I swam 2 hours twice a day. So we had 4 hours of practice a day. So to me, if it's not 2 hours, it's not a workout. And my husband tells me I'm a little crazy about that sometimes. But okay, let's get this going. We're going to make our sandwiches and then we were going to puree up our soup and then we'll have our donuts next round going out. So last night I made 4 baguettes of our little Cheesecake Factory and we always have about 2 left over, which I find is perfect for making some subs the next day on here. And these are just so good. They're like a honey wheat flavor. They actually have molasses and a little bit of cocoa powder in them. But I'm going to cut them in half and then we will toast them. And they're just so, so yummy. And all the kids say they taste just like the Cheesecake Factory bread. But I'm going to put them up. We'll rub a little bit of butter on them to toast it up inside. That way you get that nice little butter crunch on it. Let's see. And then we'll make these because I always am making enough for my parents to have some as well. Let me get my soft butter and get my skillet going, but let me check my donuts before I do that. Here we go. Perfect timing. Now let me slide. I'm going to slide now. I've got to get a little bit closer for this. I always say the donuts always turn out. They're one of my favorite things to make because they always make me feel like I'm like, ooh, such a good baker here. So artisan. And slide them there. And now I'm going to put in, looks like we're going to get these last scoops in here to bake up here. And I will say one thing about these, when I make mini donuts, they are mini, but they go fast. And we have a big family here. So and just our immediate family, it's 7 of us, my husband and our 5 kids. And then there's my parents. And then I have my nieces and nephews here a couple times a week. So these go fast. Sometimes I know when I make my traditional banana donuts, they typically make it 24 hours and then they're all gone. So, and I have a feeling these are going to be gone fast because they're chocolate and everybody loves chocolate. Okay. Let's give these a rinse up. And then before we get there, I'm going to rub and butter on my baguettes here, and then we'll toast them up. That way they can get going, and then we can dip those because they're still nice and hot. Just a little bit. We're going to kind of squeeze them on here because there's not going to be a lot of room by the time we get done with it, but they'll all fit on there nicely.
Do you ever use sourdough discard in your donut?
I do. I have lots of sourdough discard donuts. I do. It just really depends. I've been making these donuts longer than I've been doing sourdough, and they're one of those things that my family loves. And so I've just never changed the recipe for them. And I have a few of those things like my pretzels and my cinnamon rolls. I have an original recipe that my family absolutely loves, so I don't change it, because sometimes, you can't mess with something that's great. Let's see. We're going to get this all the way on here. I can make it fit. It's always like when we are loading up for our camping trips, and my husband's like, we're never going to fit this on here. It's not going to fit in the car. And I'm like, it's going to fit. We are going to fit everything we need, and we will have room. We never have extra room, but we fit everything. Maybe not the most comfortably, but we fit it. Okay. We've got these dipping. Let's see. I'll do this one in peanut butter. There we go. I'm going to do chocolate. Do another chocolate. I'm going to have 5 more donuts coming out, so I won't have to worry too much. We'll do vanilla. Vanilla is our classic. It's the simplest. It just adds a little bit of sweetness, and it's the lightest of the glazes on there. Do 2 vanilla. And because they're nice and warm, they'll start to kind of ooze down for it. Okay, while these are toasting up here, I am going to blend up our soup, and then that will be ready for us to eat. And then we will make our sandwiches, and it will be pretty much lunchtime. Okay. Now this is the best part because there's really not much that you do with this soup. I am going to give it a quick taste to make sure I've got those flavors where I want them, because it's easier to add them now before you blend them. But knowing that garlic is going to come out more intense and basil will come out more intense. Perfect. I'm going to grab a ladle. Now, if you want to add some cream to it, you can, but blending it with will make it nice and creamy so you don't have to add it. Sometimes I love the little extra richness, but today I'm trying to keep it nice and light and extra fit. There we go. Been working hard to get back to my pre-Evie baby weight. So after my first 2 kids, I always gained a lot of weight with all of my kids. Like I gained like between 60 and 70 pounds with each kid. And my first 2 kids, I lost it. Like Lena lost it 3 months, no problem. Torn took me like 7 months. Evie, because I think it was just the stress, because she was in the hospital for about a month after she was born on oxygen, and then was on a feeding tube for about 6 months. And you could never tell now because she's a tough girl. But we had so many of like trying to figure out what was going on with her, and it was a very stressful time. But I never lost that weight. And then came Teddy and Jack. But now I'm like, oh, I need this bowl still. But I was like, I'm going to hit it hard. I'm going to lose it. Still losing the baby weight. I have Jack, so I can say, but it's really Evie's baby weight on there. Okay, let's blend this up. And I'm going to use my soup setting, and we'll get it going. And once it gets to it needs about 30 seconds to a minute to blend, and you want it to be a nice, smooth, delicious puree. Perfect. And again, we only added about 2 cups of extra liquid because adding too much more will make it too thin, but it will have this nice, thick, velvety, bisque-like texture. And that's what I said. There's no added cream into it, but look how creamy it looks with it. And it's just so delicious. And that fresh garlic, that fresh basil in here just makes it so good. There we go. We're getting there. Let's check on these guys. These are perfect. And turn off my donut maker here. And I'm going to pop them out real quick, and then we will dip them just so that they're not piping hot when I get them out right away. More like I need a minute for them to cool. My fingers can take a lot of heat, but they're still a bit hot. There we go. I can always fit 24 perfectly, but I'm always finding the 25th one. Where is it going to go? I'm going to make it, I think I'll make it chocolate because, again, I think that chocolate one's going to be the top dog. Oops. And now let's get these guys dipped.
Yeah, question, where did you get that donut maker?
So this donut maker, guys, is a relic from the past. I got this in college a long time ago. I started college in 2006 and I graduated in 2009. So, and I think I got this in like 2007 or 2008. So I've had it for close to 20 years. They do not make it anymore. But there is one out there that is just like it. And it is a Betty Crocker donut maker. I have it in my Amazon storefront, and it's essentially the exact same on there. My friend has it. We've used it for donut parties before, and it is like a $20 donut maker. Same thing. This one was $20, and it has lasted the test of time. I use it a couple times a month. Love it. Get these donuts. There we go. And then we'll do our last one with our vanilla on here. And then, voila. We're going to make our sandwiches. I'm going to give my hands a quick rinse so I don't bring any peanut butter, chocolatey, vanilla goodness to it. And let's get these guys prepped up here. See how they're doing. Just about. Beautiful. We're really just warming up that bread, getting that nice kind of toasty middle to it. While we're waiting for that, we can prep up our ham and our cheese for this. I'm breaking into the good old Cabot extra sharp cheddar. You'll get your cheese tax. Just patience is a virtue. You must wait. I'm going to take some of these breadcrumbs off of here first real quick. Those little oat crumbs. I realized I always put the oats on top of this bread because, that's how they make it at the Cheesecake Factory, but it serves no purpose other than decorations, and they always just get everywhere. Okay, let's start off. We've got our nice extra sharp cheddar, and then we have some smoked ham slices, and then I'll slice up a tomato, and then I've got some crunchy greens for this. I'll grab out a couple. I don't need more than enough ham. We'll just use this guy for it. Just take off the top, and then I'm going to make some nice thin slices. And because, you got to have tomatoes on your sandwich. I love tomatoes. So yummy. And let's see. Beautiful. I'm going to turn this off because we will be ready to build these up. And I got our lettuce. I will give you your cheese tax. Very, very patience, my darling. Patience. Otherwise, you're going to get a veggie sandwich. No cheese. Okay. I need a bigger workstation, guys. I'm going to take up my little bottoms first. Luckily, you can tell on the bottoms here. And we've got them all toasted up nicely for this.
So Linda sent you a gift.
Oh, thank you, Linda. We'll give these a nice, and look at this, a perfect little, it's perfect for the sandwich. There's your extra cheese tax. perfect little slice for our sandwich. Look at that. Perfect. This thing was meant for it, guys. Look at that. I know. And the nice thing about doing with the cheese slicer is you actually cut them a little bit thinner than regular ones, and it fits perfectly on here. Let me grab some kitchen shears. That way we can just cut our ham in half here. Make it a little bit easier. Kitchen shears are the way to go. I'm going to cut off the little outside of my ham so that you don't have any of that kind of crust on there. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's a little bit more chewy. We'll lay out our ham. Start with a couple pieces on each one, and then I'll come back over with the remainder for it. And then we'll do our tomatoes and our lettuce, and then we'll top it off with the rest of our homemade bread. And then we're going to have ourselves a nice sandwich party to go with our soup. Grab the Now, the one thing that's nice about sandwiches over melts is I think what my husband really loves about them is you can stack up the meat a little bit more, because with a grilled cheese or a melt, you don't want it too high or the cheese will never melt because the sandwich will never get warm on here. You don't have to worry about that. And this is a thick cut ham, so goes pretty far. Okay. So we've got our ham on there. And now we'll add the lovely lettuce. I mean, I'm putting it on my husband's to make it pretty, but we all know he's going to take it off. There we go. I'll take it off of his because he's not going to eat it. We can all guess which one's going to be his sandwich. There we go. And then before we do our bread on top, we're going to come back over with another layer of cheese, which will be perfect. And we're going to finish off with our little subs on top. And they'll be nice and toasted, so they'll actually get a little bit of a melt on your that cheese, but not too much. And voila, look at those amazing sandwiches. And the best thing, it's on our homemade bread. Well, guys, let's get ready to serve up. Get this. And let's bring our donuts over here, because it's like the donut shop. Beautiful. And then I'm going to grab a little bowl here. Oh, and I need a plate. Let's do green. Everybody likes green. Okay. Look at this. So gorgeous. Okay. For lunch today, we have our gorgeous homemade sub on our Copycat Cheesecake Factory bread. It's a honey wheat with molasses and a little bit of cocoa in it to give it that nice rich brown flavor. And then we added sharp cheddar, ham, and then lettuce and tomato. And then we're going to serve that with our delicious creamy tomato basil soup. But the best part is there's actually no cream in it. When you blend it up, it makes it so smooth and creamy, with garlic, fresh basil, fresh tomatoes, onions, and chicken bouillon. And then for our sweet treat at the end, we've got our vanilla glazed donut, our chocolate glazed donut, and a peanut butter donut. And they're all on our banana donuts. And these are chocolate banana donuts. And they're going to be so good and so delicious. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, let's just have to go to our page, search for what we made. We've got our tomato basil soup, our chocolate banana donuts with glazes 3 ways, and our homemade subs. And you can always watch and cook along with me again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets in it. I've got a donut maker in there, as well as my knives, cutting boards, Dutch ovens, all the different things I use in the kitchen for you guys to check out. But again, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe.